So welcome to the node.js Node API team meeting for December 16th, 2022. We'll follow our standard approach of looking at things which are on the milestone 11, tag for milestone 11. Before we get started, though, does anybody have any announcements they'd like to share? Okay, if not, let's dive into the things that are tagged. So let me find that. Share that. Okay, so starting with the first one, document how to check for memory leaks. I don't think there's anything discussed or updates on that one this week. Somebody else has something. Adding the list of C language bindings. So that was discussed last week. Nick has created the documentation on the repo and created the PR and node core linking to it next week. I haven't had a chance to look at any issues, so I don't know if that's happened either, but is there anything we should chat about on this one this week? If not, okay, I will go on to the next one. Better coverage of Node API in YouTube. Does anybody have any updates or things on that? I guess we could look here to see, is there that pull request here? Okay, so not quite yet. So I don't think anything to chat about this time on that one.
Actually, I have a question about the previous topic about all these different bindings.
Yep.
Now we're going to discuss some API changes. I think we also need to look like different JavaScript engines, they implement Node API.
Yep.
I think it would be worth to have also a list of all these different implementations.
I think that was included. And now where did the doc that got landed in the first place?
And it's the Node API engine bindings.amd.
Okay.
In the root.
Right, this one.
Directory. Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. It's bottom of the page. Yeah, Node API bindings for the runtimes. But I suppose maybe the section will be named as runtime support Node API, since I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Like for example, we discussed JavaScript implementation of Node API. For example, there is no JavaScript link here.
There is the open PR for adding LTJS to the list, which depends on the JavaScript. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so that's adding JavaScript, right? So that is the JavaScript one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I see.
Yeah, I think you're right. Renaming that title might make sense. There, I'll land that so that we have it in the list. So yeah, it might be like engines that support or runtimes that support Node API, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What would be good would actually be to get contact for each of those. Like who would be interested in hearing or being pulled into discussions that relate to Node API from each of these, right?
Right. So then we discuss some changes to Node API. It would be interesting to see what these changes can affect, what implementations can affect.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like Vladimir's at the point where you should be adding the React Native as well.
Yeah, like not React Native. Yeah, React Native.
Sorry.
Yes, I would like to add it at some point. It's not there yet, but I do have a Hermes engine implementation. And I know that Babylon native project has a bunch of implementations like for JC and some other JavaScript engines. I think it would be nice to have them on the list here.
I think like they could be added even if you wanted to put like a bracket work in progress or something like that, right?
Okay. Yes.
Because I think it's
Yeah.
like it's for us to be aware. And yeah, I think like I don't know how we should do it quite yet, but like if we could basically get a contact from each of them and we could create possibly like a team that we could mention. If we had that list of contacts, but that would be a great thing to put together is like, yeah, we can reach out to these easily, all this whole group easily saying, hey, we're planning this. What do you think? Right.
Okay. So let me add this at least few projects I know, because some of them I can be point of contact, but for example, Babylon Native, I also know like developers over there. So technically I add
Okay. I'm going to create an issue here, which is like, get contacts for each of the runtimes supporting Node API, right? And actually, it's even like the other language implementations wouldn't be bad either, but that's maybe a separate.
I think does GitHub allows you to have some kind of groups? I think they should, right?
GitHub, yeah, like, well, within the organization, we can create teams and we could make like an @node.js / Node API implementers, whether that makes sense in the Node repo or somewhere else, or, but I think if we can get the group, then we can figure out how to best make something that we can mention or whatever.
We often like give it suffix SIG, special interest group.
Right. Yeah. Something like that. We do have like, we've had some things like that in the past where it's been like, embedders, like people who would embed Node in things. So something very similar would make sense.
Okay.
So let me just, I want to assign this so that it shows up in our milestone list, because I think that would be a good, definitely a good thing. Okay. We were here. So we're talking about this one here, add list of C language bindings. I think when we, yeah, we were back to that one. So do you, Vladimir, did you have anything else that you thought we should discuss on that one?
I think this is it. I was most like, I was seeing that we're missing list of current implementations on different JavaScript engines.
Yeah. And hopefully even maybe if we reach out to them, they might be interested in getting a little more involved. Who knows?
Right.
Okay. So drive towards full coverage. I know, Jack, you've been working on that. Any updates you want to share or discuss this week?
No, but I have 2 PRs open on the Node add-on API repos for adding some test coverage into the thread state function. So if anybody can take a look, that'd be great.
Okay, let me just go over there and we can just, so these
yeah.
2 right here, right? Okay.
Yes.
And this one actually, so, okay, so, and I guess since we're here, we might as well look at this. So Vladimir, you've come up with a fix for that other problem, right?
No, this other problem been already embedded in PR that Jack already merged.
Okay.
But after that, we have a bunch of warning fixes. Like when I was trying to compile NVS 2017, there are a few compilation warnings.
Okay, so basically that's a follow-on to fix warnings that, but if I actually go and look at the tests, we're back to green. Okay, great. So yeah, excellent. Okay, so with this one, good, and Kevin's taking a look. Okay, good. Okay, so these 2 are the ones, Jack, you were mentioning, if people can take a look, and
yes,
that would be great. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, thanks for continuing to push that along, making good progress.
So what needs to be done to have this warning fix landing?
Pretty much somebody can just like, it's got an approval. I think, somebody just can land it at this point.
Okay.
I don't have a Windows to verify it, but I can take a look on it.
Yeah, if exactly. If you know, if you want to take a look too and then land it, that would be great. We'll find out in the like it obviously didn't break anything in the sorry, if I go back here or the right place here. Like we can see that the well, it's questions. I don't know if we have 2017 running in these checks, right? Possibly not.
Probably not.
It didn't break anything in here, and we'll find out. I guess the one thing we could do, and maybe I could actually do that right this second if we want to, is we can launch a.
Or maybe it's worth me to kind of rebase it on top of just change first. Okay.
Okay, if you want to do that, like the thing I was thinking what I could do is like I could kick off a like the full CI, the Jenkins CI on your PR, and you know that'll be as good as we can get in terms of validating. It's not going to break anything.
Yeah, let me do it right away. I'll just rebase it,
Yeah.
and in a few minutes you start here. CI, sorry.
Yeah. Sounds good. Okay. Milestone. Okay, so we are at, and this is now ordered differently, but anyway, okay, so in terms of modules ported, don't see anything new there. I haven't done anything or looked at adding the debug testing for add-ons, although I think that'll be easier now that the we have the debug changes that I think Nick worked on. So take a look at that again. Okay, so I don't think there's any update on that in terms of the how to check for memory leaks. So I think we're down to the the stale issue. So let's take a look at that list. So there was a new one. Let's see, Kevin's had a lot of discussion back and forth. Okay, so I don't know if without Kevin whether it makes sense to talk too much about this one. Or if anybody has a chance to take a look at it, but there's a new stale one. This one. Okay, so we're still waiting on that one in terms of the feature bits discussion. This one.
Yeah, this is waiting on a example and a document change in the core repo about the proper finalization order.
Right.
I suppose I can get some time in the next weeks, since I can get some vacation on this project.
Okay, it might also be worth like if you could just comment in the issue saying, hey, this is what we're documenting in terms of this, right? Because somebody else just said, hey, I've got this issue.
Yeah, right. I'll try to comment on it.
Okay, sounds great. I think that was that one. Then we're here. Right, and this is just a C++ example. So Vladimir, any update or?
Sorry, no update on
Yeah,
it.
yeah, still in the backlog. No problem. Okay, so that gets us through the stale issues, which is good. Then we can look at the list of issues. Node. Okay. Right. So we want to look at. I think we already looked at the PRs and discussed those. Somebody look at.
I just pushed this rebase so far.
Okay. Once we take a quick look at these, I'll go back and start the CI. Okay. So basically, somebody's saying, "Hey, can you give me some help on Node Canvas?" I wonder who is that? Whether that's the owner of Node Canvas or not. But anyway, I think unless it's fairly new, get isolate object. Okay, I think the answers to this one is no, we don't.
I suppose it's not via internals, but also via public APIs, right?
Right, right. Okay. Any of the public API. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
We'll be curious to know like what feature of isolate this developer needs, because maybe kind of right question will be what do you need to do with isolate, so it's actually why we can't use just Node API, whatever was already there. So as soon as they start to use isolate directly, they out of this ABI safety.
Like that. So that's your question, right?
Yes. So why maybe do we miss some kind of important API people need to be successful with their project?
Right. Yeah, like it'd be interesting to understand. There's some things we know that people may want to do, but it'd be interesting to see if there's something new. So yeah, it's a good question. Okay, I'll add that on. Come on.
It's actually a good point. I'll be curious to look at this stuff because I want to learn more about the C++ Node API implementation.
Okay, so if you want to take a look, that'd be great. This one. You can see, Jack, you've been having some discussion.
Yeah, so I got to this step and a little bit stuck. Just had some questions regarding like next steps. So like he was able to give us some me some code that I was able to use to reproduce this crashing electron. And then the two sort of notable things I've noticed is we could either click the button twice and then reload the electron, I assume the browser, or we could click it once, let it run for a bit, and when we reload, we can reproduce this crash. And the crash seems to, like, every time occurs on the line where we attempt to modify this object that we've just created. So, but then like we have no issue creating objects. It's just that we can't really do any like getters or setters on them. So I'm just curious why that is.
So is this like the replication still requires running under Electron, or is it one where you can run it standalone?
You have to run this under Electron, and like it's like a very specific sort of triggering condition where you have to do like what it's in like condition one. It's like you have to click like the button isn't like his actual Electron app. It's like a button in his application. You click on it and it creates a thread safe function, and then it runs it, and then like the reload is like just like the reload option from the browser.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to see if it's it's I guess Electron's a lot of code. I just like, I'd probably try and run it under Valgrind as a way to see if there's any obvious errors that it could point out or something like that. But
oh, okay.
But with Electron, it may take quite a long time to run. But I think that might still be worth, because like it'll tell you if like things are double freed or not. And
okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Accessing the module exports and later callbacks. Right. So basically it's saying, how would you, if you want to use the exports object again?
Yeah, I guess instead of adding to the globals, like what he's doing, he says he doesn't like it. The only other place we have instance data, right?
Right. So setting the instance data, I mean, you could also set it in the C object through a reference, right? Like in the C++ object itself, you could bundle it into there. Although the question is, I guess, is at the init, do you have the access to the, at this point, do you actually have access to the object itself yet?
I think there are different ways we can initialize our module, and here they're using just function.
Right.
So there's no user object yet. So they need to create one and store it inside of instance data.
Yeah. Okay, so if we can have a chance to maybe give some suggestions there. Right, and then that's the oldest one there, so I don't think there's any other ones that we should discuss this week in the Node.js on API repo. No, I'll flip over here. So I see there's already been some discussion and.
Yeah, I think the question was people want to have some private symbols. And last time, Tim asked me like what Hermes does. Like, for example, inside of the 8 engine, we can have multiple private properties, if you like, for any object. In Hermes, we only have one predefined native data be associated with an object. And typically, many JavaScript engine may not even provide such functionality. I guess the question was like, should we add additional Node API to work with private properties?
Yeah, and the first question is like, I guess that's not something that's in the JavaScript spec.
It's not in JavaScript spec, and technically developer effectively has some kind of reference loop. So I think there are a couple of possible solutions. So first of all, they may actually just use, hopefully, whatever C++ mechanism for weak pointers available. Was my second question in the end. I didn't get any answer.
Okay.
But also another kind of alternative, should we consider to add new Node API method to work with private properties?
Right. I was just asking, like, if private properties were part of the JavaScript spec, then it would be easier to say, like, well, all engines have to support it. Whereas since it sounds like not, it's like then back to the question you were asking, like, could all engines support it, or is it reasonable? Or because we don't want to add something that, we'll find out engines won't or can't support for some reason.
Frankly speaking, Node API is not only about JavaScript specification, but also interaction between native code and JavaScript.
Yeah.
The kind of idea that we would like to associate some native data with an object is very kind of natural in some sense. And we do already provide some stuff, like, for example, creating external object, which just creates objects which wraps up your external data.
Yeah.
The question is, people sometimes want to associate this external data with JavaScript object, but so in a way it's not visible to JavaScript, I guess. And I think it's in most JavaScript engines, it may be not possible. Like Hermes just added this functionality quite recently. Maybe some
right, and that's the thing. If it's not possible, we better be careful.
So we may add maybe some kind of a special symbol in such cases, which say by default will be not enumerable, it will be not configurable and stuff. So then people just use normal enumeration through the properties. They will not even see this symbol. So it's probably the best we could do. But in this case, maybe developers could do it on their own.
Right. Okay, so you've asked a question, and the next step is we'll see what they come back with on that one, I guess. This one we've been talking about. I haven't caught up since I've got back. Anything interesting in terms of the discussion on the proposal, in terms of deciding how to move forward or anything?
I started to work on prototype. I just updated today morning, right a few minutes before this meeting started.
Okay.
So maybe you can start to look at this. So last time we discussed, remember, like 2 weeks ago, one of your proposals been okay, let me step back a bit. There are currently 2 different ways we could register node modules, like node API modules.
Yeah.
One of them is pretty much we fill in special struct and we call in method, and then it's pretty much like a push technique. So during DLL static initialization, we're creating some information and pushed inside of node.js. Another alternative method is our module can provide a special function. And if this registration information is not found, then we call this function register by symbol. So effectively, we're trying to find this special symbol, special function in our DLL, and we call in this DLL. And I think 2 weeks ago, you said, why do we need 2 methods? Can we zero on maybe one of them?
Right.
And I did some research. I found that registration by symbol was added later, and I think it was added by Gabriel.
Okay.
And also was to mimic some node non-ABS safe registration. And in some sense, that time it was looking more superior, like more flexible. And what I've done in this PR, I changed our even like a node module registration to also using this callback method.
Right. Okay.
I believe it's more superior for the reason that we don't require any kind of code to be executed on DLL loading. It will be kind of essentially everything kind of becomes lazy. But then we talk about this version stuff. it was not clear where to put this version inside this method, because method is essentially called, and we already want to initialize our module. We pass an environment, we pass in experts, and we would like to receive back to initialize the experts. And Chingjong, and we discussed like, should we have different function which would return as version, or should we have separate function which returns version? And Chingjong said like a good point that maybe before even calling this function with experts, we may already need to know version. So it's better to have two different functions. So it was discussed last time. So currently this PR has, effectively we're asking in a new version to have two functions. One of them would register module, another would return new version. So,
Okay.
And I added new additional unit tests. What's missing right now in this PR, I need to provide better description, and I need to provide some changes to documentation. But the rest of the code should be ready for people to look at.
Okay.
Okay. And let's have a discussion. Let's understand if this approach we want to proceed or not. That's
Okay, sounds good. This one, I think, there was the documentation that was going to be right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We just talked about this.
Yep. Otherwise, I don't see anything too new. Anything else that we should talk about this week?
Okay. I wonder, should we go back and look at it was remember like was PR about embedding Node. Should we help this developer to make progress on this PR? I remember you mentioned you used this code and you found it to be very useful.
I think it would be good. I haven't had a chance to really spend any time doing that, but I do think that like making progress on that embedding API would be good. And a C1 would make it a lot easier in many such situations. So
I made some comments before. The developer addressed some of them, but not all of them as I would like. I probably will do another round of commenting there as well. Because of one of my concerns that some of these embedding APIs become part of our cross-engine source code. I think this code should live somewhere else, not as a part of JS native API v8.
Right. It doesn't necessarily have to be part of the ABI stable API to start with, at least.
Right.
It could make sense at some point, but yeah, I'd agree, like separating that out so that it's easier to make changes, and we could make it like maybe experimental to start so that people know there could be changes and stuff. Yeah.
So I believe it will be great addition to overall node.js API surface to have some ABI stable API which people can use to embed Node.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I've been hoping we'd get there for many years, so it's good, definitely.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. I guess one thing is next week. I'm out on Friday. I don't know if I can see if Kevin's around to chair. Just thought it'd be good to we should see like with the same thing goes for like the 30th. I'm definitely not around. So are other people going to be around? Should we just cancel the meeting? What do people think?
I would propose to cancel for next two meetings because most, especially on Europe and America's people will observe New Year's and Christmas.
I believe I will not be able to make it on 30th. So yeah.
Okay, so why don't we cancel the 23rd and the 30th, and we'll see everybody would be on the 6th then. Okay, that sounds great. I will do that right now. That event. And then the next one. Okay, well then I'll go off and start that other the Jenkins job on the other issue we were talking about, and I'll paste it in the issue so people can see how that goes. Otherwise, we'll see everybody in January. Thanks for all the work everybody's put in this year, and I hope everybody has a great holiday. So
Thank you.
see everybody later.
Merry
Bye, everyone.
Christmas and